Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, it's Jesse with the Common Nerd, bringing you pop culture and all things nerdy through a common sense lens. And now I probably, like many of you out there, especially if you clicked on this video, was a big fan of Dexter back in the day when the series were initially premiered in like the mid-2000s. I thought it was really great. I enjoyed it. I watched it all the way to the end, and like many fans out there, I was extremely disappointed by the end. It was one of them situations, much like Game of Thrones and several other series we've seen out there. The ending just wasn't all that great, and obviously Paramount and Showtime and all that kind of stuff tried to end up bringing it back at one point for a short little run series. They got a lot of criticism, a lot of fan hate. It just did not end up going very well out there. So needless to say, a lot of fans have been kind of burnt out on what Showtime has been producing when it comes to Dexter out there for quite a while. Now, on the other hand out there, I did hear that Original Sin, essentially the kind of quasi-reboot, kind of origin story for Dexter out there, was one of those things that was actually really good. It featured Dexter Morgan's actor's voice out there, playing the kind of the little narrator throughout the entire series, and I heard from people in my chat that was actually really good and enjoyed it. And of course, if I'm hearing from fans of the series out there telling me that something is good, I am more likely to go out there and check it out. And well, apparently that has worked out very, very well for Paramount and Showtime, boys and girls, because Dexter Resurrection has absolutely crushed it in the ratings on its premiere. And this is a premiere on a series that doesn't have anywhere near the numbers of things like Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, or even Warner Brothers with HBO Max, boys and girls. And this is absolutely insane. Dexter's Resurrection premiere has embarrassed the likes of Marvel, Star Wars, Disney, and even Warner Brothers and DC, boys and girls, because these numbers are absolutely insane, especially in the era that we currently find ourselves during the streaming things. And this is a beautiful thing and shows that it might be a very good sign for the things to come over there at Paramount, which honestly has some of the only decent shows out there, despite what they have done to Star Trek, which could be very, very much changing in the near future, ladies and gentlemen. Praise be to the Lord for that. But needless to say, ladies and gentlemen, Dexter is absolutely crushing it out there, and it is not even close. And I think that is just a wonderfully beautiful thing to see, because clearly the fans are very happy. And if you've been around my channel for any length of time, you know, outside of maybe my DC fanboy stuff alone, I am a huge fan of fans. And as a Dexter fan as well, it makes me happy to see this series doing so well. And although Fandom Pulse's little headline here might talk about this being nothing more than nostalgia bait, I think after the ending that we saw with the original series, a lot of fans are glad to see this resurrected and hopefully give us a great series going forward that can wash the nasty taste out of our mouth from what we've had before. So we're going to check out this article from Fandom Pulse, getting all the juicy details of how well these numbers are doing, and let you know what the future of all of this might hold, as well as how this has affected the rest of the Dexter series over there on Paramount as well. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing. We just crossed 2K. We're sailing our way towards 2,100. We're thinking we're at like 2070, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below. Let me know what you think about this. Have you caught Dexter's Resurrection premiere? Did you like it? What do you think of it? I think the trailers have looked really neat. Or did you actually like it? Did you check it out there and it's just not something for you and you'd rather just go back and watch the original series? Or after seeing numbers like this and some of the reviews we've heard from a lot of the fans, does this encourage you to go out there and actually give this show a shot and maybe even sign up for Paramount Plus? Let us know what you think about all that in the comment section down below. As always, all opinions are welcome. And if you'd like to support the channel, please check out the links in the description as well. All right, from Fandom Pulse, Dexter Resurrection boasts over 3.1 million viewers for Paramount Plus and Showtime's push for nostalgia bait. And I mean, maybe it's Showtime's push for nostalgia bait, but Paramount's one of the few places that actually has new original series out there that are actually continuously doing very well. I know it's technically a spinoff from NCIS, but I know my wife and I are extremely excited about the new Tony and Ziva show that's going to be premiering out there, and I believe in September or maybe late August over there on Paramount Plus. It's actually going to require me to sign up for one. But it's one of those situations, you talk about all of the Sheridan-verse stuff, right? With all of the spinoffs. You've got Landman. You've got all of the rest of these things. They've got the Mobland one. That one's on Paramount as well. I mean, it's one of the few places that actually has shows that are getting not only critic reviews very, very high, but you're getting the most important part, you're getting fan and audiences really enjoying it. I don't know who's in charge of Paramount's creative decisions right now, but outside of Star Trek, they seem to actually be doing a really, really, really good job. And they're certainly doing better than anything from Marvel, Star Wars, or Disney Plus as a whole. And that you cannot deny, boys and girls. Paramount just scored its biggest streaming win in years, and it came courtesy of a serial killer who's been dead for over a decade. Obviously, they kind of retconned, kind of not retconned that. Needless to say, he ain't dead anymore. Dexter Resurrection shattered Showtime streaming viewership records for its premiere, as networks tried desperately to catch the attention of streaming viewers through the nostalgia bait shows. Obviously, this is also working very well for Landman and a lot of the rest of the stuff going on out there. But the nostalgia bait kind of thing also lines into what Marvel did, and as a series that we did review, Sunker Maiden and I reviewed it on our Thursday night show, Is It Good? Which honestly, we really enjoyed Daredevil Born Again. But like I said at the time, like I said when I reported on the viewership numbers for Daredevil Born Again, it simply proves to you that Marvel burnout is very much real, especially when it comes to the Disney Plus streaming services. Even though they brought back the entire original cast, nobody trusts Disney Marvel anymore. I'll be very curious to see how that ends up working out for Fantastic Four's box office, especially domestically this weekend. But that's an art video for another day. The numbers tell a compelling story. While Marvel's Daredevil Born Again only managed 387.3 million minutes watched, according to Luminet's data for Disney Plus, as they tried to ride the nostalgia wave of 2010's television. Honestly, it's one of them situations where the series wasn't bad, but there definitely were some issues with it. And I'm honestly still cautiously optimistic for what the second season will go into and how it will work, because I now know that we have a brand new entire creative team and we will have all of the original, a majority of the original cast returning for second season. Yes, boys and girls, Foggy's not actually dead. Spoiler alert. But Dexter Resurrection achieved record-breaking viewership despite being locked behind Paramount's Plus premium subscription tier and being on the premium Showtime package for cable. Once again, Paramount does not have anywhere near the numbers of subscribers that Disney Plus has, boys and girls, and yet they are crushing everything Disney has put out over the last at least 6 months, if not couple of years. The studio released figures that 3.1 million people turned in to watch the show between the two platforms, marking a sizable launch for the return. Resurrection's premiere also had an audience increase of 44% from Original Sin's premiere and 79% from Dexter's New Blood, which that was the one that nobody liked. We'll have to check out the Rotten Tomatoes scores at some point in the future as well. And Paramount Plus gave numbers that viewership on those shows increased by 132% on their platform as well. So apparently Original Sin and Dexter's New Blood, because of this new series, because you only get 1 or 2 episodes at a time on an actual traditional network television streaming service, and that when they're not trying to hide their numbers, yes, Disney Marvel, yes, Disney Star Wars, we're talking about you. You get 1 episode a week. It's kind of like Sakamoto Days out there on Netflix, which is another great series, especially if you like anime, that my wife and I have been really enjoying as well. Cannot wait for next week with the new episode. So this literally, everybody's like finished with this. They loved it so much. They were like, well, I need me some more Dexter. I need me some more Dexter. So they went and watched the other 2 shows as well. That's all good things for Paramount. And it shows you that at least somebody over there at Paramount knows what kind of television actually sells with audiences out there. For those who missed the original phenomenon, Dexter ran from 2006 to 2013 on Showtime, following Dexter Morgan, a forensics blood spatter analyst who moonlighted as a vigilante serial killer targeting other murderers. Michael C. Hall's portrayal of the methodical, morally complex anti-hero became an appointment television, with viewers simultaneously rooting for and being horrified by a character who dismembered bad guys in his spare time. And I mean, it really was. I mean, I loved that show. That was one of those for during its peak. For those of you that didn't live during the peak of Dexter, if you lived during the peak of Game of Thrones, it was like that. Not quite to the level that Game of Thrones got to, but it was pretty close. Everybody was talking about this series when you went to work. Everybody was talking about this. It was really that kind of must-see TV. The show's popularity stemmed from its unique premise and Hall's performance. Dexter operated by a strict moral code, only killing those who deserved it, which gave audiences permission to enjoy watching a monster work. The series tackled themes of justice, morality, and what makes someone human, all wrapped up in a darkly comedic procedural format. And there was some great levity to certain episodes, and it was done properly, not the kind of break the tension kind of nonsense that you see, especially in a lot of the Marvel television shows and a lot of the Marvel movies over the last few years. And honestly, just from pretty much everything you've seen come out of Hollywood. I mean, it was real. One of my favorite parts about the show, too, is especially if you've studied serial killers, if you've looked into them at all with any kind of intensity. And in my early 2000s and stuff like that, and in my high school years and stuff like that, I really was like looking into a lot of that to a certain degree that I had to stop myself because I was becoming a little obsessive. But it was one of the things that's what kind of showed you when you study a lot of those people, when you look into a lot of those things, there's a lot of damage. There's a lot of, and that's, if you look through that across the board, right? A lot of serial killers are damaged. They have horrible childhood trauma that causes this to have a broken viewpoint of the world and stuff like that. And you saw that with Dexter. You saw that with his backstory. And then you saw his dad recognize what had happened, what was going on with him. His dad checked and figured it all out. And that dynamic and that relationship between Harry and him and Dexter and all of that, how all that stuff worked, it was just so wonderful and so incredible. And they did such a good job because he loved his son, but he knew where this was going to lead. He knew what path this was going to lead down. And he did not want his son to become an irrepressible monster, an irredeemable monster that would just end up locked up in prison. You know, he knew he had an urge that he couldn't control, just like he'd seen with so many other serial killers in his line of police work over the years. But he figured out a way to give Dexter an alternative to where he wouldn't go out there and taking out his needs and his urges out there on innocent people. And just the premise behind that, it was so unique and was so much fun and just so enjoyable that it just made the show so engaging. And then, of course, the characters were so good. And I could nerd about Dexter all day long, and I'm super excited to check out the new series. Cannot wait. Obviously, we already talked about the finale and all of that kind of stuff out there. The success highlights Hollywood's increasing reliance on nostalgia-driven content. Studios are mining their catalog for recognizable properties, betting that familiar faces will cut through the streaming noise better than original concepts. Dexter Resurrection joins a growing list of revivals, reboots, and resurrections across every platform outside of the Sheridan-verse. And Mobland. What's particularly interesting is how the non-MCU nostalgia seems to resonate more strongly with audiences. Daredevil Born Again performed poorly for Marvel. It didn't generate the same cultural buzz or record-breaking numbers that the Dexter hit for Paramount Plus has. Perhaps viewers are experiencing superhero fatigue, or maybe the appeal of a more ambiguous anti-hero feels more relevant in society's complex world today. And honestly, we've already gone over why I believe the Daredevil Born Again show miserably failed, and they'll allude to that here as well. But this is something that's really nice to see too. The show currently holds an 83% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, suggesting viewers are satisfied with the Resurrection's premiere. Obviously, it's not a 90. This isn't some great, massive hit with the fans out there, but it's solid, and it's going, and obviously it was enough to get the numbers up there. We'll have to see how the numbers hold going forward, but at least as right now, this thing is crushing anything we've seen on streaming for a long time outside of the Sheridan stuff. Though Daredevil Born Again also had an 80% audience score, so MCU fatigue may play a factor in the difference between the two shows. It absolutely is. That is the main factor in the huge difference out there. People still at least trust Paramount and Showtime enough to give something like this a chance, unlike what's going on with Marvel and how much they burned the mass majority of their audiences out there. Dexter Resurrection proves that when nostalgia works, it really works. But it is still a gamble, as there are properties viewers are burnt out on as well. Studios will undoubtedly take a note of these numbers, especially given the premium subscription requirement. If audiences will pay extra to revisit a beloved character, expect more dead franchises to get the Resurrection treatment. And honestly, if that's the case, as long as they do it well, I don't mind. And honestly, in an era where we've dealt with so much new modern storytelling, maybe getting back to a little tradition, maybe going back to the old ways of things, maybe bringing back a few old characters, maybe bringing back a few old shows is exactly what we need to stem the bleeding, to kind of maybe feel like people are returning to a sense of normalcy, maybe returning to a sense of storytelling that you can trust on television and in movies and stuff like that. And you know what? If it takes bringing back a show like Dexter Resurrection, then I'm totally okay with that. You know, because I think all of us kind of need a little bit of a breath right now when it comes to the culture, right? We've been in this battle. We've been in this fight. Some people out there, some commentators, some cultural warriors out there have been in this fight for a decade or even longer, pushing back against this nonsense, pushing back against all of the activism, the diversity, the inclusion, and equity requirements that have destroyed so many of our favorite IPs, that have caused Marvel and Star Wars and Disney and Warner Brothers in some cases to lose so much trust with their audiences in so many different ways, that a place like Paramount, outside of Star Trek, which they've completely and totally devastated and destroyed underneath Kurtzman Trek out there, for the most part, they've been putting out some solid shows that the general audiences out there feel they can trust. Whether it be, of course, the Twisted Metal series out there from a few years back, which I think it has its second season, premiering here very soon with Anthony Mackie, which I heard nothing but good things about. Or, of course, all of the Sheridan-verse stuff that they've had with Landman and all of the different shows out there, and Yellowstone and all of the spinoffs with Yellowstone and everything else. Like, this is one of the few places, despite their bankruptcy, despite their financial troubles, that audiences in general feel like they can trust and at least are willing to give a shot. And maybe that has something to do with Showtime. Maybe that says something about Paramount. Maybe that just says something about Dexter and the Dexter fans out there. Either way, I don't think this is a bad thing. I think this is an incredibly good thing. Not only is this an incredibly good thing for Dexter, not only is it an incredibly good thing for Paramount and Showtime when they certainly could need it the most, but it's a great thing for all the Dexter fans out there, right? Because they're giving you something that clearly resonates with you and makes you happy. And the culture at some point does need to take a breath and return back to some of that good old-fashioned religion. Go back to some of that good old-fashioned nostalgia and just give us all a time to breathe. While these new properties, these new IPs made by these new creatives out there are doing good jobs and can get recognized by the general audiences and get picked up and end up doing really well and become the next Dexter, become the next Game of Thrones, become the next Star Wars, become the next Captain America, become any of those next that will end up having a generational impact like things like Dexter have. And boys and girls, the most beautiful part of this, and maybe call me a cynic, maybe call me a little jaded by what Disney and the House of Mouse has done to some of our most beloved IPs, but ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Paramount, Showtime, and Dexter Resurrection have embarrassed Disney, Marvel, and Star Wars to no end. And ladies and gentlemen, it's exactly what they deserve. Marvel has danced with the devil. Star Wars has danced with the devil. Disney has danced with the devil, and they've all gotten burned for it. Paramount and Showtime, on the other hand, danced with what would be arguably a very much fictional devil, and instead it paid off for them. And the major changing factor about that is at least somebody over at Paramount actually understands what the fans want. Because as always, fans decide, and the fans have decided that Dexter Resurrection is going to be a huge, resounding success. Marvel, can you say the same thing?